Golf Story, The Expanse, FIFA The Journey, and Peter Chapman from Oddworld Inhabitants. This is Staying In.
I'm on my birthday week at the moment.
You make it sound like you're going through a course of medication.
You sound like you're on jury duty.
I'm currently on my birthday week.
On my birthday week, trying to get through that. Hopefully I'll be back at work and having a nice time soon. Last Sunday, the Sunday that just went, I went and did a baking course at the Little Kitchen in Brislington in Bristol. Now, I think it's in Brislington. It's in Bristol, whatever. Anyway, Little Kitchen is what it is. And the most important thing about all of this are the three things that I made.
Okay.
I made, one, a herb fougasse.
You don't sound that sure.
I love the fact that this visit is so imprinted on your memory. You can't remember where it is or what you made.
It makes it sound as if you didn't mean to make that, and it just happened. You started with one thing.
Right. Pete, you're. I'm assuming that you're a Bake Off fan. I don't know why, but I just assume that you are.
Isn't everyone these days?
Yeah, it's true.
Pretty much.
It's in the citizenship test, isn't it?
So you can help me with what a fougasse is. It's basically a.
No, hang on.
Okay.
Pete, what do you think the Bake Off is? The Bake Off isn't people talking about lots of different breads and describing what they are and how they're made. It's not an educational programme in that sense.
That's why it wasn't on radio.
If they've never made a fougasse or whatever the hell that is, we're not going to know. Pete's not going to know what that is.
Oh. Well, Pete, I think you're a bit of a fougasse master, is that right?
I have made a fougasse in my past.
Yes, pas fougasse.
It's a traditional French bread, similar to a focaccia bread, I believe. And
yes,
because I'm an avid follower of Mr. Willington on Twitter, I know that his had rosemary on top.
Well, she wasn't meant to be there, but...
No, she wasn't.
She just couldn't help herself.
So I made a fougasse with rosemary on it. I made a loaf, a bloomer. You'll be very pleased, Sam. I made like I know you've made your own breads and stuff. I made it a seeded top bloomer, and I also made. These were the stars of the show. I made cinnamon rolls, iced cinnamon rolls.
Nice.
Now those are a tasty treat. I made those.
Now on Twitter, as Pete had already alluded to, there are some pictures of your baking triumphs, efforts.
Yes,
efforts.
Yeah, sure. Let's call them that.
And obviously rosemary's there, and your seeded top.
Yep.
But what I noticed about the cinnamon rolls is that in the pan they'd kind of look like they'd all fused together into one big cinnamon block.
Yeah.
So it's singular, not plural, Sam. Is that what you're thinking?
Now, my lovely fiancée has made... Oh, no, she's made me Chelsea buns before, and I distinctly remember them all coming out as separate entities and not as one unified force.
It was definitely a tear and share situation. But they were. But here's the thing. Tear them off, eat them away. They were. I genuinely surprised myself. I was so impressed with. I mean, it's all to do with good teaching, right? Like it's all to do. It's Rosemary getting on there.
If she sits on it, she loves it.
Yeah. She loves it.
That's the litmus test.
There we are. But I genuinely because Pete, are you into baking and stuff?
I am. Yeah, I discovered baking several years ago as I kind of I've suffered with mental health issues, and I discovered baking as a way to kind of focus on something and give me a little bit of something to really just concentrate on for a set period of time. And then at the end of it, you get delicious things to eat.
Everyone wins. Pete, what is your go-to baking of choice? What is the thing?
I love baking bread.
Yeah.
And that's... I would say that I'm probably better at cake, but I love actually making bread because it's such a tactile thing.
Yeah, you can't need a cake.
Sort of knead it for a long time. Yeah, exactly.
You see, this is exactly what I found. It was very therapeutic. It was very calming. It was very you can't think about anything you can't think about other stuff. You really have to like go right.
Not even the recipe.
I'm gonna break down. I can just about think about it. You can you do the okay. So I did something called when you. It's like you knead the bread and you do something with the gluten strains and it breaks them but also toughens them at the same time.
Yeah.
And I did that and I was learning all about the science of it. Oh, it was great. And so they all turned out lovely and they were all delicious and I had a great time. But on my birthday week now, so left to go is so I've got my PGA Tour golf professional teaching me how to play golf tomorrow, and Pete, I don't know if you're up to speed on this, but I've never really played. I mean, I've gone to a mini golf course.
You're holding the putter the wrong way there, Pete.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. I've done all that stuff. That's all fine. I can get it through a windmill, no problem. But other than that, I've not really done any golfing. So I decided that I would. Throw myself into it and just hire a PGA Tour professional to teach me how to play golf over the course of 2 days. So I'm doing that. That's in the next couple of days. I've got scuba diving lined up. I've got some snowboarding. I've got all that stuff. I've realised that part of me just wants to stay home and play video games. I looked at the big stack of games that I've got. I'm like,
After one afternoon of learning how to bake 3 things, you're already regressing on this wonderful.
I would argue the least physical exertive of the proposed activities as well.
Kneading can be aggressive.
Yeah, that's true.
At the end of this week, Pete, you've basically taken your starter training course to be James Bond.
Long overdue.
Well, he is going to be fencing as well in the new year.
So Die Another Day is covered.
Exactly. Yeah, I got fencing. I got fencing covered in the new year. So what else am I going to need? I mean, I've never fired a handgun.
I mean, I can't wait to see Pete's Bond. And the beautiful buxom woman walks into the room and he's there with a pinny on, turns around with his cinnamon rolls.
Yeah. Can you imagine, the James Bond company invites everybody to the Thames. There's a boat coming down the water, speedboat heading down towards where all the press are. Now we know you like Daniel Craig, we know you liked him, but guess who we've got? And I stumble out of the boat.
Pop up from below the surface of the Thames in a scuba mask.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's going to go well.
By the way, I have got to interject. Talking about baking, luckily we've sort of skimmed over that, so I don't need to tell you about the baking disaster I had at the weekend.
No. You absolutely do need to tell us about the baking.
But I've also just got to say that at the moment. I'm baking, or at least babysitting, an aubergine and chickpea casserole, which has got to be stirred at least once every 15 minutes. So, so I'll tell the story, and then I'll have to go and stir the
make
pot.
Sure that you break the skin. Yeah.
So, okay, I was doing some baking at the weekend, just before the weekend, because I was going to go and see Chris, and Chris needs food to live, as we all do, but just to generally wake up.
Him especially.
Yeah. And so I thought I'd make some cookies. Okay, so I was making some cookies, some chocolate and peanut butter cookies, and I put them in the oven, and they were in the oven for about 5 minutes. I went, oh, shit, the milk. And I've not put the milk in. The milk! So I took everything out of the oven, I poured the half-cooked cookies back into a bowl, stirred them up again. I went onto my iPad, right, how much milk does this... Where's milk? Where's the... No, they don't need milk. Oh. Okay. Back in the oven.
Pete's face there was just... It was like a non-meme version of the Picard face palm.
They tasted good.
I actually think I've unintentionally created a way to make brownie cookies, because the mixture had gone already sort of part baked, it had gone quite fudgy. So when I put them back into the oven to almost second bake, that's...
Well, it's an interesting fact, but biscuit technically is derived from biscotti, which means twice baked.
Exactly.
Little bake-off fact.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I actually did, like, Pete, we've talked loads and loads and loads before. Like, so we used to do Sixth Axis podcast whenever I used to, deign to foul it up. And, like, I've never known, like, I've seen little bits of baking and stuff on your Twitter feed and so forth, but I've never actually realised how you are really into this, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I totally am. It's like, unironically, I love baking.
Pete, you're among friends here.
So nice.
It's a great way to teach chemistry, I find. Baking.
It is. I've got a friend that's a chef, and he says that cooking's magic and baking is science. I think that's kind of an interesting way to look at it.
Now, Sam and I have been playing Everybody's Golf.
We have.
Everybody's Golf is... It's a delight.
Yes. What, you want me to say more, or are you...
I mean, I'm happy to go there, but I think. So, Pete, you've been playing another game, and I keep seeing like all the cool kids talking about it, all the cool kids with switches and stuff. And it's what is it called?
Is it Golf Story?
Yeah, Golf Story.
So, what is this? Is this Mario? Is this the new Mario Golf, basically?
It's an RPG based around the game of golf, which is doesn't sound like the most exciting premise for a video game, but it's quite entertaining. So it has golf elements within it, and you do play the odd half a round of golf. At any point when you're just wandering around the overworld, you can drop a golf ball and just kind of tee up.
Nice.
It's based around the character's progression in the golf story. It's a little story around golf. So it starts off with him kind of out learning how to play golf with his dad and being beset by geese. And then it kind of fast forwards like 20, 30 years or something, and he's waking up in his little house, and I think maybe his wife has left him.
Oh my
Because of a
gosh.
Because he loves golf too much.
Ah, right. Okay.
So
okay.
she's on the phone. It's a long time since I saw this opening sequence, so I might be getting bits of this slightly wrong, but she's on the phone telling him to come and pick his bags up, and he's basically saying, "Count, I've got to go and play golf."
Nice.
And he's right out the door and back to his golfing house.
A tale as old as time.
So, yeah, it's a sort of pixelated art style, very indie game, and it has caught the zeitgeist a little bit, and like you say, all the cool kids are playing it.
So what? So is it the classic golf mechanics? Is it obviously it's the game of golf, but is it the swingometer?
Yeah,
like
it's the three tap
thing.
Yeah,
okay.
and just to make this clear, Peter, that when you're with your tour professional, putting down the ball anywhere you want and teeing off is not how you play golf. And
Is that
Just in the car park.
Is that a faux pas? Also, by the way, I am every single time I do something wrong, I am going to turn round to the instructor and go, "Well, that was a faux pas."
Please don't.
And we're going to be best friends. So it's like, so I'm imagining this as like, I guess the GBA Camelot Mario golf games, like top down 2D.
Yeah, it looks fairly similar. It's kind of top down, almost isometric look. But the interesting thing about it is it's made by a very small team. I think the company's called Sidebar Games. I think.
Okay.
This is their first game that I can find. Anyway, I can't find any information on them at all, really. And it's I think if it's like one or two people, then that's all. And it's a really nicely made game, and it's Australian, so it has that kind of sense of humour that you don't see very much in games.
Yeah, gotcha.
So yeah, it's just a kind of a nice little different thing.
How do the two sides of the coin integrate? Because at the moment I'm playing a football RPG essentially, with FIFA 17 and The Journey. So how does the act of playing golf interact with like side quests or like missions and that kind of thing?
You'll quite often you'll go somewhere and like you get into conversation with a character and they'll tell you that they need something, and the way you get that thing is beating somebody at golf or or completing a golf challenge, like hit the green 5 times with 7 shots or like things like that.
Right,
so it's all the progression is based around the act of golfing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds really super. I mean, so how does that compare with FIFA 17? So, hold on, Sam. Is it called FIFA 17 The Journey, as in the game is actually called FIFA 17 The Journey? Because I didn't realise that FIFA was doing subtitles now.
There is a mode in FIFA 17 called The Journey.
Right, okay. So is this like the... Because they put this into the boxing game that they did, didn't they? There was like Fight Night. This was like a really big part of this. Like, be the pugilist or whatever it is.
Be the pugilist. Jesus.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, and obviously down with the kids. FIFA 17, you know.
Yeah, sure. Brand new hot game.
But that was mainly because Dan and I were looking for something that we can just jump in and out of quite easily.
Oh right.
Because he's obviously with baby now. Well, he's, you know, with it, not in it. You know. And
yeah, sure.
Thanks for clearing that up.
So FIFA's quite flexible because you can play 10 minutes or you can play an hour, depending on what's going to happen. And if you need to drop out of a match, then, you know, nothing bad's going to happen. You're not going to lose any progress or anything like that. So we both decided to pick up FIFA 17, and we both dipped into the journey, which is... So FIFA used to have a mode called Be a Pro, where essentially you created your own character and you basically just played them, or you had the option just to play them on the pitch, and you took them basically from like a fledgling character. As the more you played, the more stats you built, and then you went from, you know, club to club until you ended up captaining England in the World Cup or something like that. So that was the old mode, but the journey is a fully fledged RPG story. Basically, you play as a character, and there are cutscenes, and there's a big like arc to the character that's built into the game, and it's done really well because you are sent on this story, and there are obvious narrative points that the game is trying to hit, but at no point do you feel cheapened in that way. Like, one of the first things to happen is, first of all, can I just say that the journey is hilarious as a story, is pretty, like, it's the cheesiest story. If I tell you, if I tell you three that the start of the journey is that both you and your best friend Gaz Walker get signed up to the same club at the same time, whilst also you as Alex Hunter is dealing with the fact that your granddad is an ex-pro footballer and your dad is, but your daddy's left you, and your family in the lurch, you can probably tell what's going to happen in...
Is it that you pick Squirtle and he picks Charizard? Is that what it is?
Or when you were a kid playing football with your dad, you got chased by geese. Gaz Walker. I mean, that is the most quintessentially English name, isn't it?
The start of the journey is brilliant because it starts off with you and Gaz like playing sort of like Sunday League football, like really young.
Yeah.
And your mum and your dad are on the sidelines, and a kid tackles you, and you fall to the ground, and your dad literally goes, "No son of mine will fall over like that," and he just pisses off and never comes back. And goes and lives in Australia. It's the most overreaction to anything that I've ever seen.
He took that fall badly. Off I go to Oz.
He just emigrates. He leaves the country.
That's a strop, isn't it?
So
a strop. Yeah.
So then what the game essentially is the Be a Pro mode. You take the control of one singular character, and the more you play, the more the stats are sort of boosted up. But what it does really well is, as I said, how it hits those narrative arcs. So very early in your career, you get loaned out to a championship club because you're not performing as expected by the manager. And then the whole idea is that you kind of learn your trade in the championship, and with the hopes that you'll get either returned or picked up by another club in the Premier League. And so when you return, Gaz has had like this incredible season and like got a massive ego, and then you come in and sort of there's a competition between the two, but it's so engrossing, it's so competitive, because like any good RPG, you invest so much within this character, and the way it's built and the actual design of the game is you kind of go through the same frustrations as, I don't know, I'm not a professional footballer, but you kind of go through the same frustrations that a professional footballer would do. So in your early career,
I've got too much money. That's really women are throwing themselves at me.
When you first start in the Premier League, you're on like 30 grand a week, and they still they still try and ground Alex by making you play out like your first few months still in your parents' house, living with your mum. And
he couldn't believe it. He had to have Waitrose Essential champagne.
But like, because you start off very low in your attributes, you can't do much as a player. Like, no matter how much experience of FIFA you've got, you're not. If you get the ball, like, your first touch isn't going to be very good, your passing isn't very good, so you become frustrated, and then the manager starts playing you in different positions. So, like, you start off in the Premier League, and you don't even start off this first team, so you spend out ages on the bench, then you come on with the last 20 minutes and the manager's just like, right, I want you to get a goal here, and sticks you in central defensive midfield, and you're just like, well, I've got no fucking chance in how. No, so you try as much as you can, and you end up making mistakes because you're trying to impress the manager and you're trying to improve your career, and then slowly you get pushed away from the club, and then when you go to the Championship club, it's all designed to kind of make you feel better and definitely like a proving ground for you, so you get your attributes up and up and up. So it's almost like a grinding field, like entering the open world of an RPG, as it would be. And then you go, then at the moment I'm back in the Premier League, I'm a little bit of a better player. Pete, I don't know if you're a football fan, but one of the funniest things happen is, and I started off my club, because you can pick any Premier League club at the start, and I started off with Bournemouth. And within the first 2 months of you playing, like literally after your second game, Bournemouth signed Harry Kane. Now, that goes over your head, Pete, but Harry Kane is probably, well, some people argue he's probably the best striker, best number 9 player in the world at the moment currently.
He's in my fantasy football league.
He is. He does very well. He plays at Tottenham Hotspur.
He's in my squad.
And suddenly he just turns up and starts, I'm going to play for Bournemouth now. And he's brilliant. And he acts in it. He's an actor in the journey. It's brilliant. And he's the world's worst actor. But what's... and he's just like...
He's no Vinnie Jones.
No, he isn't. And he just comes up to you just like, really well played today, Alex. Yeah, you've done
Hello,
really well for
I'm Harry
yourself.
Kane.
But like, I've gone back to Bournemouth. Harry Kane's still there. But because Bournemouth are playing a 4-5-1, they never play him. It is just like, you've got the world's best striker on the bench, you never play him. And that has its own frustration, because I'm not scoring as many goals as I would, because I'm playing in a system that I'm not familiar with. And you can't change any of the team aesthetics. You can't bring on any substitutes or play in an attacking style. So what the journey does really well within the FIFA is give you that idea of being a player or a character almost frustrated within the system that doesn't quite suit you, and you kind of bashing off against the manager's decisions. It's really engrossing. And like, if you get a game and it's 0-0 and you just miss a chance, or something just doesn't quite go right, you like put some passes astray, you immediately want to go into the next one. It's the only thing that's taken me away from everyone's golf.
So this sounds to me like FIFA 17 is to Golf Story as Final Fantasy 13 is to Final Fantasy 6. Like, it sounds like FIFA 17 is this big, exciting, spectacular, emotionally devastating thing, and it just sounds like Golf Story is the game I'd rather play. That all sounds brilliant though, and I do like this idea of sports games, and everybody's golf does this as well. Sports games finding reasons to keep you playing for longer, like not just like, just keep coming back because you think the game is mechanically dense enough or it's exciting enough. It's, you know, with Golf Story, it sounds like, you know, just to clarify, Pete, like with Golf Story, it's stuff like to get the, I don't know, strawberry cake, you've got to get like 5 eagles. Is that pretty much it?
It's even slightly more simplistic than that. In like, to get the key to get to another golf course, you have to hit the target on the golf course that you're currently on.
Oh, it's literally there's no conceit. It's like, it's not like, oh, you're trying to win the competition prize, which just so happens to be the thing they won.
There is conceit, but the conceit is always we're all really way too involved in golf.
Yeah, it's golf. The way I've imagined it in my head, it's just a world where golf, everything is decided by the result in a game of golf.
Yes, everything is golf.
Brilliant.
It's like Battle Royale.
Sam, you've been playing FIFA 17 with Dan because he's obviously had a baby.
He did.
And so he's obviously taking well-deserved time off when he's playing FIFA 17 from, I can't imagine what. But Pete, you would be able to fill us in on what having a baby you have to do. I'm assuming that there is changing.
Yep.
There is feeding.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Do they still? Do you still have to do burping, or is there some sort of machine that does that?
No, burping's still a manual process.
Is it actually burping, or is it just making the little one try and vomit? Is that
actually
right?
making them burp?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
bringing their window.
just making them burp. Now, sometimes you do get like a bonus vomit along with that, but
Okay.
you're not. The goal is not vomit.
Oh, right. It's just a happy little accident.
Yeah.
So when did you have the little one?
He was born on the 22nd of April.
Okay, so he's now. Hold on.
Go on.
Oh, mate.
We'll wait.
7 months.
6 months.
6 months.
The upward
6 months, there it is.
Right.
24 weeks this week.
Yeah. Very.
I don't know
good.
when you stop measuring in weeks.
Yeah, I don't know either. Just when it gets to like 24, just be like
just 52 candles on the
1,000 weeks. So yeah, add 52 candles to it. It's just a massive hole in the ozone layer above your house. So what at six? Okay, so this is the most important thing for me when it comes to babies. What can a 6-month-old do? Like, can it walk?
Can it bleed a radiator?
Are you after a caddy, Pete?
What can it do? What can the little? Sorry, what's the little one's name? if you don't mind me asking? Logan.
Logan Hunter Chapman.
Logan. Wow. So apart from being super awesome,
Part of the Weapon X project.
You're just set up. Yeah, exactly. You're just set up for an amazing life with Logan. What can 6-month-old Logan do?
He can shout. He's very good at shouting.
Okay, excellent.
Performing the song shout or?
No, just generally shouting. It doesn't have words yet, so it's more sort of
He's got stuff to
guttural,
say.
primitive thing he has going on. He's very good at making sure that you don't actually watch anything you want to watch on the television.
Right. So he's like Bake Off.
Nah. Wait till I'm asleep, Dad.
Yeah.
Right now, it'll be Shrek.
What do they? Okay. So
film,
at
Shrek.
6 months, is it like? Does Logan have preferences?
Oh yeah.
Really?
I didn't think he would, but for the past month, the only thing he wants to watch is Shrek. And if you put anything else on the TV, because I just thought like shapes and sounds and colours would distract him.
Sure. Yeah.
So you put anything else on, and it gets a couple of minutes in, including Shrek 2. It gets a couple of minutes in, and he starts like shouting. And if you leave it for 10 or 15 minutes, he'll start crying until you put Shrek on, and then he'll be quiet.
So you couldn't just adjust the colour settings of your TV to make everyone green.
No, I thought like it would just be a noise and shapes thing, and it would be fine. Yeah. But no.
But so okay. So obviously a fan of the original Shrek, the much better original. Rather
Well,
than
yeah, it
sequel.
wasn't.
They
Well,
just-
to be fair, Logan's a critic already. I like that.
Is it the fact that he's just a big fan of John Lithgow? Because he's the only thing different between the first one and the second one.
He's funnily enough, this sounds absurd because he is 6 months old, but funnily enough, he is like so not a fan of Prince Charming in Shrek 2. And any time he comes on screen, he's very fussy about it.
He's not a fan of Rupert Everett. That's crazy, man.
Wow. So, okay, so like Shrek, doesn't like Shrek 2. What like do they have like preferences for food at this point? Do they have?
He's still just on milk at the moment, so
Just on the milk.
just on the milk, and the milk is actually the bulk of their food intake for the first year is milk.
Pretty much,
even
yeah.
when he starts eating, we'll have to start weaning him soon because he's sort of starting looking for food. So we'll start weaning him on like pureed vegetables and things. But even at that point, apparently for the first few months, it's just for fun. So they're allowed to make as much mess as they like because it's just for fun. They don't actually have to eat the food because they get all the
Just for
nutrients from milk.
funsies? Oh my word!
We're learning
Oh,
a
my
lot.
word.
Neither my wife nor I were particularly baby-friendly people before
Yeah.
we got pregnant, and we're kind of having to try and catch up a little bit.
Okay,
So it's a journey.
so that is absolutely fun. So okay, so they have the food for fun,
Yeah.
and it's like. So what you like? Obviously, you get like fish fingers and chips and like potato smileys and stuff like that, and just like
Cinnamon
Turkey
rolls.
Twizzlers, yeah.
in front of them. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I've never
Had a baby before.
had a baby before, obviously, but I guess that for
That'd be a
me
hell of a
is the
birthday
most
week.
Just hire a baby for a week.
Yeah. I think though that having. I mean, obviously, having that experience is incredible and magical, and all of that rot. But like, I think the other really like cool thing is like, I guess do you see the being become more human? If you know what I mean, like, do you see it like developing things that you recognise as non?
I'm so sorry, Pete.
The scariest thing about the whole process, like it's okay, it's magical and you feel that bond and connection, and it's a beautiful, wonderful thing to look into your son's eyes and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
It's terrifying, and it's disgusting, and it's really hard work. And
Wow.
it's like you do. Sometimes you catch a look and think, I know what that look means because that's the look that I give people. So sometimes. Sometimes I will catch a look in his eye that I really recognise as myself, and that's
like
kind of
like Dad, Shrek 2, eh?
Sometimes my wife will say something, and he'll look at me like, "What's she talking about?"
Wow, so mimicry is already, you can already see that and stuff. That's really interesting.
That's brilliant.
But the funniest thing was the first few days after he was born. Obviously, he was born by cesarean, so it was quite a traumatic birth. But
Yeah.
the first few days, he's just like this tiny little baby with this screwed up face and the little squinty eyes, and isn't he cute? And every now and again, he would like turn around and go, "What?" And it'd be like, "Where am I?" And you just think, for 9 months, he's been in this dark, warm, liquid environment that's all calm and soothing and sounds all muffled, and all of a sudden he's out in this world, and sometimes he would just look into your eyes with this look of sheer terror. Like,
Yeah.
where am I and what's happening?
Like, he must be... Here's the thing, right? Babies at all times must just be exhausted because everything is new. Like, sometimes I'm like wandering down the street sometimes. I'm like, this is all quite pleasant and nice, and I know that I'm probably going to see that person on the way to work. And, yeah, exactly. Like, but here's the thing: like, if a car drove past and I was a baby, I'd be like, what on earth is that? Like, everything is brand new. That dog going off.
Poppy. Look. Okay. No. Well, Poppy was a little bit similar. I mean, she's not a baby, but we had her when she was a child. And for her, the concept of doing a poo was so strange in the early, weeks. When she'd do one, she'd be like, "What the hell is this?" and look behind her and start walking away from it.
My sister's a vet, and she had a cat in. It was terrible. It was quite traumatic, but you can laugh about it now. It was a cat that at one point, both ends, it was vomiting up coffee beans and shitting peanuts at the same time.
Starbucks is taking these seasonal varieties way too far now, aren't they?
Apparently, Dan tells me that Toby has just learnt what a fart is.
Right.
So before it was just like baby would fart,
Just get on with it.
you know, it would be like, what the hell is that? But now it's learnt that squeezing certain abdominal muscles provides relief from from digestional pain. So now it's just like he just sits there and he looks at Toby and can see that Toby's he's trying to push one out.
Yeah, Pete, you were saying earlier about things you recognise in yourself. I'm sure Dan is...
Dan's like, that's what I look like when I do that.
I've helped give birth this previous week as well. I gave birth to a brand new video game.
In fact, it was almost Shrek.
Oh. Yeah, it was almost Shrek. Actually,
And Pete, and when did it start looking like a game?
Yeah. When the game was born, it was like, whoa, shit, I'm a game.
I'm a game. This is new. So the studio I work for put out our new turn-based strategy game called Ogre, and let me tell you that so this is my second product launch now, second video game launch, and let me tell you that launching a video game is... I always forget how ridiculously tough and like how late the nights can be there. And like obviously, Pete, you're nodding your head because you're obviously you're involved with Oddworld Inhabitants, and you put out the. We talked about this, didn't we? We talked about on the show. We talked about Oddworld's. Which one did we talk about?
New and Tasty.
New and Tasty.
Yeah.
The fantastic New and Tasty, and obviously you were a part of that. But these launches are, I mean, so for us, we're an indie studio. We're about 15 people, and you know, it was a big enough deal. Like it was like all hands to battle stations, talking to the community, and like doing last minute bug fixes, and making sure everybody's happy, and getting all the marketing out there. Like that was my job, like making sure that people actually played it. I cannot imagine what it must have been like for you with this decades-old, like, heritage franchise, putting out a remake of basically one of the most beloved puzzle platformers of all time.
Well, luckily enough, I didn't actually join the company until about 6 months after the PlayStation release, so it's only really the ports that I was involved with.
Right.
So by that stage, we already had at least like one Metacritic ranking, and we kind of knew how it was going to be received everywhere.
Okay.
But it's always nerve-wracking.
Right.
Yeah.
So what did you put it out on after the PlayStation port?
Well, the PlayStation version was the first out, the PS4 version, then it came out on PS3 and Vita, or it came out on PS3, and then we did... The month I joined the company, we were setting up for the Steam release and the Xbox One release the month after that.
Right. Yeah.
And then we started working on the Vita and Wii U ports of it.
Did you find that different audiences had different expectations for the same game?
To an extent, yeah. There's well, everybody wants the game to work the way they imagine it'll work on their platform, for a start. And obviously, when you're working with platforms that don't have the same kind of power to push around, it's difficult. Like we had to make certain decisions with the Wii U version and the Vita version just to get them to run on those machines.
Sure.
Because even though it's only like a side-on platformer game, there is like a lot of depth to the art, and there's a lot of AI even in the NPCs and stuff. So everybody wants it to work as, like, even people buying it on Vita or getting it for free on Vita because it was cross-buy wanted it to be the same as the PS4 version.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to make decisions, even things like some of the particles on the PS4 version, when we scaled them down to the Vita screen, were sub-pixel size, so there was just no point in keeping those things in because they didn't appear. Yeah. But people still wanted them to appear, so that you have to kind of try and find ways for it to be, like the suggestion that there are particles there or bees there or whatever. So yeah, to an extent, there is some different expectation, I think.
Yeah.
I think that it seemed like people... Well, people... I was going to say there that maybe people thought that the Wii U version might be a little bit easier than it was. But I think that with Oddworld fans...
To play?
To play. I think that Oddworld fans generally knew what they were getting, and with New and Tasty being a remake, it was kind of well expected that it would be the same as Abe's Odyssey was. So I think we avoided a lot of that.
Yeah, because I think that was the thing that I think that game like really it had a really big challenge to overcome, which was basically it had to feel like the game used to play in your mind.
Yeah,
like it had to feel like Abe's Odyssey did in 1995,
97,
97,
yeah.
97. And I remember playing it back in the day, that first game back in the day, thinking, wow, this looks absolutely incredible and all that sort of stuff. And played it again to contrast it to New and Tasty. And New and Tasty feels like that old game, whereas when you go back and play that old game feels a little bit more stiff than you remember it being. And I think it was absolutely amazing. So, yeah, I've got to say, like... So, as I say, we put out Ogre, and there's something really... And I don't want to, I don't know, idolise this idea of, like crunching and, like, doing late hours and all that sort of stuff. Because at the end of the day, crunch is bullshit. Like, all of this sort of, like, work harder. It's like, that's not great. And it's obviously something that in the studio we absolutely try and avoid at all costs. But it's one of those things of there was a sense of camaraderie of like working those extra late hours of like we're all going to do this because we want this to be the best thing.
Yeah, I think you find with small teams that crunch becomes less of an issue because people want to be there because they want to get the best job that they can possibly do. Right. They want to get it done. They want to get it out the door. Yeah. And that's kind of the other side to this is that launching a video game is really, really difficult because it's the result of the artistic endeavour of a number of people and the creative endeavour of a number of people. But it also has to make money. You know, I don't know what position that your team's in with funding, Peter, but I assume that if you launch this game and nobody buys it, then it becomes very difficult to keep those 15 people in a job to make the next one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the same with you know most products and stuff. We're quite lucky in the way that we put our products together because we the deals that we put together are smart enough whereby, you know, if it doesn't absolutely do incredible gangbusters and stuff like that, that's not an issue. It hasn't got to be this million seller or anything like that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, it's always going to be a financial concern of like, you know, we're not just doing this for the sake of it, you know, like.
Yeah, so you kind of have those two pressures. So people want their work to be out there. They want people to see their work in a artistic, critical way.
Yeah.
But they also want people to see their work in a marketable way that means that they buy it. And I guess a lot of the team don't even think in those terms. They just want it to be successful enough to keep them doing what they love doing.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily understand what that is, but it's an added pressure on top of just, I'm about to release this thing that I've spent the last year, 2 years, whatever, working on.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big enough pressure. So for that to come at the end of a period of crunch, whether it's voluntary or whether it's enforced by some big evil corporation, everyone at that point is absolutely exhausted and emotionally drained anyway. And then they're releasing this thing out into the wild, and all of a sudden you're getting 1,000 pieces of feedback every day, or like if you're incredibly lucky, you're getting 1,000 pieces of feedback every hour. And that's kind of a lot to cope with when you haven't slept properly for the past 6 months.
I completely agree. It's the you know, it's, imagine if you were working on a painting for 2 years and then you were like, here we go, everyone. Like, yeah, it's absolutely,
you know, but a painting can't be changed, which is surely the biggest thing that you both have to deal with. Is you put this thing out to the public, a public that are very much aware that everything about that could be changed within, you know,
within certain parameters.
Yeah, but they're savvy enough to know that if they don't like something, they can lobby for it to be changed rather than the painting when it goes up. That's the artist's interpretation, and it is what it is. So how do you prioritise those? Those disagreements that people have with your vision. Surely there's got to become a line where that's absolutely how we wanted the game to go, and between that and actually no, we've got to change that because that's interrupting people getting to the end that we intended.
Well, I think it's something you have to think about sensibly as that feedback's coming in, and it's incredibly easy, and a lot of what I do is involved with like planning for social media side of things. So there is an element of the same 15 people are messaging you every day telling you that they want something in the game.
Yeah.
And you kind of get into that echo chamber of, okay, do we spend the 30 man hours to put that feature in for them? Or is it just simply not worth it because there are only a handful of people asking for it? Mm. And then the other side of that is that sometimes they're right. So, like, New and Tasty launched on PlayStation 4, and the biggest single piece of feedback that the company got, and like I say, this was before my time, but the biggest single piece of feedback that the company got was that they didn't like the controls because it was all analog controls, and it didn't play like Abe's Odyssey did because there was no like button to hop sideways and that kind of thing. So they patched in digital controls that felt more like Abe's Odyssey. And I mean, we still get the occasional comment with people saying these controls are garbage, we don't like them. And we say, pop into the menu, hit this checkbox, and it'll fix it. And the people come back and go, oh my God, that's brilliant. That's what I wanted. Yeah. So sometimes these people are just right. And sometimes what they're asking for is unreasonable and it's just not financially viable for the studio to do it. And sometimes they're not right. Sometimes they're wrong and you have to know when to stop listening to them.
Absolutely. Like that's one of the things that we've had to deal with as well. Like, we've been fortunate enough in that, so we've launched on Windows, and the one big piece of feedback that we get is we want a Mac version. And it's because our demographic for Ogre, because it's a game based on a 40-year-old tabletop game, that demographic is slightly older. And so and this isn't to be disparaging to that audience, but I get the feeling that a lot of that audience have bought Macs because they just work, right? Like, because they're not interested in gaming. Like, some of the feedback that we got was like, oh, the first, one of my first Ogre video games I played was Ogre, and it's like, you've been playing games for 30 years because it was a digital adaptation about 30 years ago, and it's like, oh, and this is going to be the next game I play. There's huge gaps. And so one of the things that we got was like, we want this Mac version. And usually we say, well, if you actually look at the statistics of who's playing games on Steam, Mac is, it's a drop in the ocean. I mean, then you get these people who are like, Linux, and you're just like, you are insane. But like with Mac, it is always like a value judgment. And obviously that's something that we've had to take into consideration. But these people are often very vocal, the Linux crowd especially. They're like, get Linux gaming, it's great. And you're like, yeah, cool. And then you make the mistake of making it, and then no one buys the bloody thing.
Yeah, they're like 0.6% of the audience, and they're like 20% of the vocality.
Right. And it's astonishing. And yeah, having to make those kind of decisions it's difficult to know, because obviously it's great to have if you've got a series like Oddworld, I'm sure you've got fans who have been with it for years, and it's a huge part of their life. Like Dan is a massive fan of it, and
he loves it.
He absolutely loves it. In fact, he wants to know all about Soulstorm, and I got a message saying, "Tell us a secret about Soulstorm," which I'm going to leave that with you as to whether or not that's something you want to do.
But no pressure, wasn't it? Was Oddworld the game that he played with one of the first games he played with his dad?
Yeah.
So now he's anticipating Soulstorm is going to be the first game that he plays with his son. So
right.
So no pressure, Pete. Just no.
The circle of life taught me all I needed to know.
Yeah.
Maybe off air we'll discuss some secrets.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Ooh. But can you tell me though what is Soulstorm?
Yeah, Soulstorm is the first brand new Oddworld game since Stranger's Wrath in 2005.
All right. Okay.
So
Man.
there's been quite a lot of confusion that it's an Exodus remake, and it's not an Exodus remake at all. So it will reference some of the same story beats that Exodus did, and some of the locations might be similar if people are very familiar with Abe's Exodus. Some of the locations might be familiar to them, although we're changing names and stuff as well. So maybe not.
Is Abe still the central character? Is there?
Yeah.
Or...
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool.
The idea behind that being that the original Oddworld quintology that Lorne spoke about back in the late 90s was always envisioned as being a series of 5 games in which Abe would be kind of the thread that you follow through them, but each one would introduce a new character. So technically the second game in the quintology was Munch's Odyssey, which was Munch introduced as a new character, but Abe is in the game as well in places to kind of breed that familiarity. The only problem with that is that when you release a game that's not called Abe's something, all of a sudden it's a new IP.
Yeah.
And you have to sell it again based on that. So he's kind of gone back to that original vision of the quintology being the story of Abe seen from different perspectives. Soulstorm will be following Abe. Abe's the central character. He's the character that everybody knows and loves, so it makes my job much easier if we keep him in the game. But we're trying to do it in a much more sort of a much more wider view of what's happening. So in New and Tasty, or Abe's Odyssey, it was the story of Abe in his factory, and he realises that something's not quite right with this world, and his first motive is self-preservation, so he just runs away. And from that, then he kind of learns that there's a little bit more to this, and a little bit more is expected of him. But he's always a reluctant hero. He never actually wants to do what he's doing. He just kind of has to push through it. In Soulstorm, we're looking much more at what effect that has on a wider society. So in New and Tasty, Abe brought down the factory that he worked in. But how does that affect the society around that factory? And
Right.
Abe's fellow workers all see that now is possible, that maybe they can fight back too. And the people in the sort of the structure, the corporate structure directly above Abe, they're pushing back, like, no, just keep quiet, and we can carry on with our quiet, happy lives if you just shut up and get back to work. But and they'll continue to grow like that. So the next game after Soulstorm will be looking at how that ripples out wider through society even further than that.
Tell me all about The Expanse, Chris. Honestly, I keep seeing it advertised to me on Netflix, and I look at it and I think this looks like Dead. What's it called? What's
Dead
that
Space.
one? Dead. It looks like Dead Space, but on a Netflix budget.
What do you mean, Dead Space, the EA video game?
Yeah, yeah.
You
all right.
can't tell the difference between different kinds of media, Sam.
No.
You just can't.
Space, helmet, science.
Now, Chris knows that I bought the book,
Yep.
the first.
Pete's also bought the book.
Have you? Leviathan Wakes?
Yes. I bought it. I haven't read it.
Oh, Pete, that Pete, the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. The book was recommended to me, a guy that I work with that Peter knows, the other one. Ogre.
Yeah.
We'll call him Ogre from now on. It makes a lot more sense.
Like Shrek.
Sure, Shrek.
He calls it hard sci-fi. Hard SF. It's pretty much what he calls it. And now I've never been a massive fan of that. The hardest I go with my sci-fi is Star Wars, and really, even then, I'm not that interested. But he did sell The Expanse to me because he's watching the TV series as well. And he sold it to me, which is why I bought the book. And also at the moment I'm reading Nelson Mandela's autobiography, so Leviathan Wakes is a complete antithesis to to learning about African apartheid.
It says it on the back page, actually.
Yeah, that's how they sell it, isn't it? Yeah, they sell it next to one another. If you liked Nelson Mandela's talk about how he overcame apartheid, you might like Sort of Dead Effect, or whatever it's called.
So Chris, so don't ruin. Basically, what I was trying to say is don't ruin the book for Pete and I.
No, I won't. I'll just do the premise. So, yeah, as Sam alluded to, this is based on a novel series by James S.A. Corey.
Which is two people.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Is it James S. and A. Corey?
No, it is the pen names of the authors Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank. Are their names.
I think it's named after one of their daughters or something like that. I can't remember.
But it's one of a series of books
already, isn't it?
9 novels, the 9th one being published in 2019. I just completely caved when Netflix just recommended it to me. The series came out in 2015. I think it was first on Sci-Fi. Just Sci-Fi, not Hard Sci-Fi was the name of the channel. And I was, back in the day, I was a really big fan of Babylon 5. And this one seemed very much like a Babylon 5 for the 2000s, really.
Okay. Is Babylon 5 hard SF?
Kind of, yeah. It's an incredible series. It was a long-running series where every single episode was written by one person.
Yeah, Straczynski, right?
J. Michael Straczynski, yeah. I think that,
as in the comic book writer?
Yes, that's where he got his start. Yeah. Well, not his start, but
Babylon 5, honestly, some people really knock it, but I really like Babylon
it's great.
5.
Who is knocking it?
It's just like it's a brunt of lots of people's jokes. Babylon 5, it's not as good as people just say.
Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine, exactly.
Babylon 4.
Yeah, I mean Sam's more of an expert than me. But the premise of the Expanse is that it's set in the future where Earth has kind of colonised Mars, but also an asteroid belt, and you've got 3 different groups of human beings. All kind of
so far very similar to Nelson Mandela's autobiography. Go on. Colonisation.
Exactly. So you've got on Earth, you've kind of got the UN as this kind of hubbub, and leading that is a United Nations executive that you're following.
Okay.
On the belt, you've got a police detective who's trying to hunt down or solve a crime, find a missing girl that he's been hired to find. Okay. And then you've got the third segment of the story is a captain who is basically on a ship whose job is to go and get ice from the asteroids to bring back for water to the belters. And he encounters a distress call, and it's from a ship which this missing woman is on. And basically him answering that call sets in motion a series of events that lead to a potential political uncertainty, potential war could erupt, and it's just full of this kind of political intrigue. But it's just about this world building there that is fascinating. That the Belters, because their gravity is different on the belt, they've all kind of they've evolved slightly differently in terms of how their spines and things react to that less gravity there. There's all these little details there. So whenever they kind of go into hyperspace, it's not like in Star Wars or Star Trek where they just rock from side to side as the ship's moving. They actually have to put gum guards in and strap themselves in because obviously the toll it will take on the body to do that will be so extreme. So honestly, there's this kind of gritty, kind of Battlestar Galactica-esque quality to it. And I just find it incredibly engaging. The science fiction is almost incidental, the backdrop. It's just a really interesting story about beyond, it's the cosmic politics of how these 3 different societies all intermingle and interact or are butting heads of each other. And at the core of it is this mystery that you're trying to solve, this mysterious threat that seems to want all these different nations fighting each other. And I'm absolutely enjoying it. I'm about halfway through the first season. I cannot wait to go straight into the second season on Netflix. And it's been commissioned for a 3rd season next year. It received a Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation. And it's one of those wonderful moments where when Netflix recommends you something, it actually pays off.
I love that kind of world where you dropped into it to see this story unfold, but it's a world that appears to have existed for hundreds of years. You know, everything's there and everything's present and correct, and it all has its own little like foibles. And like you mentioned about, I haven't watched Expanse, but you mentioned Battlestar Galactica and the way everything in that didn't have corners. It was all
exactly.
like that has obviously come from somewhere, but they never explain it. It's not a big thing. It's just this is part of our world, and it gives a real sort of depth to the world that the story's taking place in. I really love that kind of thing.
And you can tell that it's based on a novel. You can tell there's a lot of lore here, and it really made me want to go out and read that novel because, as you say, those tidbits, those bits of contextualisation, that kind of potted history of a culture, you'll get that more from a novel. Here, it's kind of like the tip of an iceberg. You know, there's so much more substance beneath it. And yeah, they've done an absolutely sterling job from what I'm watching so far. It's doing incredibly well. It's kind of become a slow burner. It's got a very slow start, but it's just kind of really taken people's imagination, and really people have become more and more increasingly infused by its narrative. Pete, do you know that Sam the other day Sam spent all day Friday putting together sound clips of Sean Connery's greatest film roles? Because there was a rumour going around that Sean Connery had died, and as a consequence, Sam had to put together all this massive kind of audio clip of Sean's best roles. You know this, Pete, because you're practically James Bond, as we already know.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I just love that as an idea somewhere. Sam, basically, I was trying to guess the kind of roles that he was kind of picking. Really.
Oh, okay. Roles for Sean Connery. Here we go. So, obviously, you've probably picked a James Bond or two, but I
even guessed the James Bond as well.
I would imagine it would be either Dr. No or Goldfinger.
It was both.
Okay, excellent. And then after that, surely you will have picked Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, correct.
And also the bit where he's that old dragon in.
Here we go. I was getting worried then.
What's that one? Where he's the old dragon?
Dragonheart?
Yeah, where he's Dragonheart in that?
No.
And then
I
probably
didn't pick for Sean
Highlander,
Connery's.
Highlander,
was,
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but Highlander, he played a 17th century Spanish dandy on a horse. So I was like, for Sean Connery's mythical obituary that I was making, based on a spurious rumour, I wasn't going to start slapping in the moment in Highlander where he turns up with his faux Spanish accent.
No, you should double team that with the Untouchables. Of his Irish accent.
I did put the Untouchables in.
Lest we forget, you put the Untouchables in.
Yeah.
The Avengers, Augusta Winter.
No, didn't put the Avengers in. You're missing one of the big films that he was in.
Was he in the Avengers?
He was in The Rock, wasn't he?
He was in. I really wanted to put a Rock clip in, but bit sweary. I wanted to put the one in where he's facing off against what's his name, and big villain's just like, oh yeah, these people need to be taught a lesson, and basically Sean Connery goes, well, I just think you're a fucking idiot.
And then it goes straight to like Fiona Bruce. Sean Connery died today.
Quick question: who was he in the Avengers?
Augusta Winter.
No, not Marvel's The Avengers.
Oh, was there another Avengers?
Fucking hell.
He was the original Iron Man.
Because he was in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah,
He was.
That was his last film, wasn't it?
He
He quit acting after that.
It could be his last film.
He was in a sci-fi film called Xanadu, I think.
Xanadu.
Bizarre sci-fi film.
Yeah,
That sounds great.
I think that was when Sean Connery got naked. So
Really?
anybody want to go and have a quick look at Sean Connery's stuff? There it is. Xanadu.
Well, we have our Twitter account, Pete, and we basically what we do is we tweet out different parts of the show, and then we accompany it with an image. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is try and find Sean Connery's naked ass.
Oh my god, guys, right, okay, oh my god,
Is this?
guys,
Are you about
right,
to send us something NSFW?
Right, send me this.
No, God, am I about to look at Sean Connery's butt?
Oh my god, you're not. No, it's better than him being naked. Weirdly.
Okay. Well, what could that possibly be like? Oh my word!
That's the goods.
To briefly describe it, Sean Connery is wearing nothing but a pair of thigh-length purple boots, a red...
Where have you found this?
He looks like a Sacha Baron Cohen character.
Yeah, he does. He's wearing purple thigh-length boots, a red thong, a pair of red bandoliers crossed across his chest. He's got his hair in a plait in a ponytail, and he's holding a revolver on the beach. He's not wearing anything else.
He looks like a character from a cut sequence in Death Race 2000. Absolutely banana. Well, I mean, Sam, you realise you've posted this in our regular Skype chat window for podcast. Like, every time now we're going to just open this up and look at this.
My God.
Great.
Yes. Incredible.
Well, Sean Connery there.
Rest in peace.
He's not dead.
Is he not dead?
That was Staying In with Peter Willington, Chris Darby, myself, Sam Turner, and the wonderful Peter Chapman from Oddworld Inhabitants. You can find out more about what's going on in the Abe-verse, as I call it, by searching for Official Oddworld on Facebook or following Oddworld Inc. on Twitter, where there's some interesting stuff going on around Soulstorm. Definitely worth checking out. Well, if you enjoy this episode, make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Mixcloud, Acast, Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you prefer to get your podcasts. If you'd like to leave a review too, we'd be really grateful. Visit stayingin.podbean.com for more information and links to all the things we covered in this episode, and come find us on Twitter on @StayingInPod. But for now, thanks for listening.